Hey y'all, welcome to Pro Say with Tiff. So, this is episode 2 of the series. We're gonna call this episode What Happens After You Lose Your Job, right? So, because everything starts the moment you lose your job, like the moment you lose your job, that's when everything begins. The whole legal process of anything that you need to do, whether it's you need to file unemployment, which most people do. So we'll start from there. So, like, what happens, right? I need to make my disclaimer, so let me do that first before we get anything started. The series is based on my personal experience and for educational purposes only. Okay, I'm not an attorney, and this is not legal advice whatsoever. Okay, court rules and legal requirements vary by jurisdiction. So from state to state, county to county, federal court to federal court, right? Even though it's different levels of federal court. So today's episode, we're going to discuss general information about job loss and early steps people often explore, not the confidential details of my case whatsoever. Okay. So number one, I just want everybody to understand. Like, I know when you're going through something, and when you lose your job, right? Your life doesn't stop. Okay, the bills still need to be paid, the kids still need to be fed, you still need to eat, you still need to go places, you still need to do things, right? So that part of your life doesn't stop. Just because this one thing stopped, that doesn't mean life stops. Okay. It actually seems like it speeds up, right? It seems like everything is racing, everything is like, what the fuck do I do, right? Because you don't know in that moment. You don't expect, like, on a Sunday you clock out from work, or Friday you clock out from work, and then on Monday you can't open your emails, you can't clock in with your badge, you just don't know, right? You just don't expect that. So, and if people were like me, like, I just didn't expect anything. So I was kind of like, it was a curveball for me and for my life and for my family. So, I just want to talk about those type of things here. Life doesn't stop. So there's a whole roadmap to this. The reality is you're going to go through an emotional roller coaster. You're going to have, why? How could this happen? Why did this happen? What did I do? What could I have done differently? Da da da. It's going to be a blame game. It's going to be a bunch of things. And it's, I don't think it's the same versus where, like, if you get terminated versus if you quit a job. Because most of the time when we're quitting a job, we kind of already thought that through. We probably left that job a long time ago and we were just still working just to work. Some people are job hoppers, like my kids. Some of them are job hoppers. They go from job to job. But, it's a process, right? Especially if you get terminated or you lose your job or you get laid off or whatnot, whatever. For whatever various reasons, there is a process that you go through. Okay, so there's like this roadmap, right, that you go through. You're done with that job, right? And then your income stops, clearly. So depending on when the job loss occurred, how it happened, whatever, depending on that is, how, if it did it happen in the middle of a pay period, did it happen at the beginning of a pay period, did it happen at the end of a pay period? Do you have money saved up? Do you? I mean, it's 2026. Gas prices keep going up and down. We're in Illinois. We're over $4 a gallon right now. I know some places in Illinois it's like $5. So you think about those things. What happened? How can you? What to do? You're lost, right? Bills are going to keep going, and they're going to pile up, right? So then, what do? Their next step is to call unemployment. Either you're calling unemployment or filling out unemployment the day you get terminated, the day you quit, for whatever various reasons, but you go to unemployment first, right? And so then you go through there. You have to explain what happened. When did this happen? When was the last time you worked? How many hours did you work in the last 6 months? Like, all these questions that you aren't prepared for, right? This is what's happening. Or are you prepared? Because we talked about this in the last episode. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So we should be documenting everything. We should be keeping our pay stubs, keeping copies of those pay stubs, right? Um, because again, you won't have access to those things because HR does not work for you. Okay, as an employee, HR does not work for you. They will say that they work for you. They will do all these things because that's what they're supposed to do. They don't work for you. Okay, they work for the person that signs their paychecks. Okay, so you know, you got rent, you got groceries, you got bills, you got transportation, you got family responsibilities if you have children. You have all these things and they don't stop. Okay, so now you're going through this whole process of unemployment. What do I do? How do I fill this out? You got all these questions. And then you're going to have, okay, well, it varies by state. Some states will give you unemployment automatically and go back. Some states, they'll go through, you have like a 30-day waiting period where they have to consult with the employer as well. Is the employer going to try to stop your unemployment? Is the employer going to contest you receiving unemployment insurance because you pay for that, right? You worked at this job for who knows how long, for months to years. Sometimes people get it for weeks. So you go through that whole process of filling out paperwork, and that's a daunting task as well because it's confusing. You have to sign up through your email. You have to make sure you have your ID. You have to make sure you have everything situated in that system. You have to have a source for where you will receive your unemployment benefits at. And understand, like some states are 6 months, some states are yearly, and you have to be actively looking for a job while on unemployment. Okay, if you're not, they could cut it off, right? So that's another daunting task that you have to do. Like, man, you already got to do this. Now you got to go do this, and you're not going to get your income. Whatever you were making, you're not going to get that in unemployment. It's only a fraction of your income depending on how much you made. Okay, so then you start thinking about like the unemployment benefits. Again, like I said, every state has different rules. The employer might respond, they may not respond. If they respond, you have to be prepared for a rebuttal, obviously, to that response, right? Because depending on what you got terminated for, was it documented properly? Did you document properly along the process, right? So it's kind of like if you're 2 steps ahead, right? And I know we don't think about this while we're working because we're just working, right? But how many times or how many people have been caught off guard by a situation dealing with the employer or a job, and you're just not prepared for that? You're not prepared to lose your job. You're not prepared. You're just caught off guard. But I'm telling you, from day one, this day moving forward, document everything. Document. That is going to be the easiest way, the best way for you to come out of any situation if you are working for someone else other than yourself. Documentation. It doesn't matter if you're working for your best friend. It doesn't matter if you're working for a family member. It does not matter. Document. Keep track of your pay stubs. Keep track of how many hours you work. Keep track and know what your salary is, what your hourly rate is. Keep track of all that. You need that information. You might need it, you might not need it. You never know, but just have it, right? So this is you being thorough, and this is you also creating a plan for your life and for your future. Going to a discrimination claim or a sexual harassment claim or anything like that. Unemployment is its own separate entity that you file through that state that you worked. Okay, so that needs to be, it's separate. So that's its own investigation, its own thing, its own documentation. Now, you can use that documentation if you feel that, you've been wronged in some way or whatever the case may be. That's when you will go to the EEOC. But before we get there, we want to go to what is at-will employment, because I know a lot of young people don't know what that means. A lot of people think like, oh, I got this job, they can't fire me. Yes, they can. So if we have at-will employment, that means that most relationships, right, that you have with your employer are at will. It's at will on your part and it's at will on their part. They could decide that, we like you, you know what I'm saying, Tiffany, but we don't like what you did today, so we're gonna no longer need you. And they don't have to give you any notice for that. Same thing with you. You could be on a job for I could be on a job for 2 weeks and be like, you know what, this is really not my thing, and I could decide that I'm just gonna go ahead and quit. That is called at will employment, right? Yes, we like to have 2 week notice, right? But employer is not gonna give you notice when they fire you. So by these states being at will, you also, a lot of people don't understand, like, you are the same. You're an at will employee, so at will you can decide to quit. Okay, it is general, like, courtesy to give a job 2 week notice, right? I've given jobs 3 month notices. I've given jobs 2 week notices. I've, just being very courteous about the whole situation. But because they're at will, this is what you need to understand. They're not allowed to be unlawful in discrimination or retaliation. And there's a difference between a legal reason and an illegal reason. So legal reason that an employer can terminate you. You were stealing, or you showed up like your attendance sucks and they just don't want you there anymore. Or you're bad, your vibe is bad, whatever that is, you don't come to work in uniform, whatever it is, they can fire you, right? And employers do lie, right? People lie, employers lie. They're people. They're not machines. They're people, right? And I'm not saying that for any particular employer or any particular person. I'm just saying that they have to have a legal reason to fire you, not illegal. They cannot fire you based off of, race, gender, age, disability. If you've been retaliation, if you report sexual harassment, they can't fire you for that. They cannot. Those are illegal things and to fire you from. But I'm telling you right now, Google is going to be your best friend or your worst enemy, because there are a lot of things that are on Google that are not true. There are it's a lot of misinformation online. There's a lot of things that you're gonna have to go through, and you're gonna have to read the EEOC website. You're gonna have to read up on the law in your state. You're gonna have to read up on the federal law. You're gonna have to understand what it is if you do decide that, like, okay, you know what? They fired me because, for an example, they fired me because I was too old. This is just in general, just somebody. They fired Miss Linda because Linda was 75 years old, and this is an environment where they usually have like younger people working, and they said that she was too old to work, or somebody heard that, or she heard that, or whatever, or the employer may have told her that, like, you too old to be here. That is illegal. You can't do that. So that would be a case you would take that to the EEOC. And the EEOC is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It enforces certain federal employment discrimination laws. And that filing EEOC, you have to file a charge with the EEOC. And that's part of the process. It's not proof that the law was violated. It's just part of the process. So you file with the EEOC if you feel that one of those major things, racial discrimination, gender discrimination, age discrimination, sexual disability discrimination, retaliation because you reported something to an employer about sexual harassment, any of those things, it falls under window. You could just research that and find out, like, okay, maybe my case is this. Maybe Miss Linda, she was old, and Miss Linda, the employer, told her, like, you're too old to be doing this, so we're just gonna go ahead and let you go. You can't do that. Okay? So there are really a lot of different things to that. And then also, you have to prove, like, so when you do that, you have to prove that there's some type of loss. So yes, Miss Linda, she was discriminated against in a way because of her age. One second. Okay. So yes, Miss Linda was discriminated against because of her age. So the employer started cutting Miss Linda hours. So Miss Linda got hired as a full-time employee, but because Miss Linda wasn't moving as fast as younger employees, then Miss Linda hours got cut from 40 to maybe 35, 30, 20, and now Miss Linda's at 15 hours, and the workplace is becoming hostile, work environment. You know, she's hearing things, people are saying things or whatever, and so she therefore has lost her income because the employer discriminated against her. So it becomes a domino effect of those things. That is where you prove the harm at. Okay, that's harm. Okay, this again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you like what I've learned in the process. You know, you have the two, it's like a double-edged sword, right? Yes, you want to go to EEOC. Yeah, EEOC is it's a great place for employees and to have that advocate for them. But it's also a very daunting process because again, you have to file with the EEOC before you can file a federal lawsuit. You have to go to EEOC first, and EEOC will decide if you will receive a right to sue letter or not. That doesn't mean if you don't receive a right to sue letter, that doesn't mean that you can't sue. That just means the EEOC doesn't feel that you meet the requirements from them, but you can still sue if you wanted to, right? If you do get the right to sue letter, sometimes EEOC will decide like, okay, well, we'll mediate. We can help mediate this with you. So you and the company, or you and this company, or this person, whoever you're employed by. It doesn't have to be a company. It could be I got employed to do this job and they told me I can't do this job. They hired me, we signed a contract, we did this, we did that, but then they decided that they didn't want to hire me. They didn't want to continue to pay me because of XYZ. So it's a lot, like this is like, it's an umbrella of things. It's not one thing, two things. It's an umbrella of different things and different scenarios, okay? So yeah. So, you're there. Okay, you're at the point where, you've already lost your job. You've already filed unemployment. You feel that the unemployment, okay, that's cool and dandy. So you're going through that process. But you also discover upon you researching that this may be a case for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to take on. It's going to be fearful. You're going to be afraid. You're going to be scared. I went through so many different emotions. Going through this by myself, researching by myself with no help, nobody really in my corner. I was ashamed when I lost my job. I was very ashamed. I felt like a failure. So emotionally, you got all these things going through your head because you're like, what the fuck? How could this happen? Like, what the fuck did I do? Da da da. So you go through all these emotions, the fear, because you don't know what the fuck to do. You don't know how to navigate this system. You've never been there. You've never, ever been through this process before. So you research, right? So it's very important for you to research. It's very important for you to be knowledgeable of everything. So I'm letting you guys know, do not, it's easier said than done. Don't react. Don't react. You get in this situation. I'm hoping this series finds someone that is going through this right now. I'm hoping this series finds someone that maybe this happened to a while ago and you just don't know what to do, right? Research, right? Look it up. Look up people online. I found a lot of things too. People posted on TikTok about it. They didn't help, but I'm not saying that they don't help. I'm saying that they didn't fit what I needed at the time. Some people very well might help. You have a ton of lawyers giving legal advice on TikTok. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a woman, a person that has went through this process on her own. And, and I can just explain and express my feelings, my emotions, how long it took. I can't tell, anything about the outcome. But I've been through the process, right? And it is a daunting process, but do not give up. Keep going, right? Don't panic. Organize everything. Like I said, from day one, if you're new going into the workforce, organize. Once I gotta sneeze. My allergies are really bad, but if you're going into the workforce, or if you've been in the workforce for a while, start documenting. Save your check stubs. Don't just toss to the side. Download them. Take a picture of them. Put them in a file. Save, though, if you've been written up. What were you written up for? Save that, 49 states, I believe, are at will. Don't quote me. 49 states are at will states. So, with that being said, you have rights. And these states will do what they got to do to support you and to help you. But at the end of the day, you are your biggest advocate for yourself. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a notebook. It's called the Pro Se Notebook. And so in that notebook, what I'll do is I'll have all the legal terms, and then we'll go over different things about the series and things you've learned in there. Do not make permanent decisions, right, in advance. Don't panic. I can't. I won't. Don't do that. So sit on things, process information, okay? Because what I'm telling you is this will get you to a level in life, and it'll take you and it'll elevate you to where you're like, I can do anything. And that's how I feel. I can do anything that I set my mind to do now, okay? What I need you all to do is, right, I like, my journey is long. I have like so much patience, right? Daunting. I cried so many nights. My family struggled so much, because I'm pretty much like, I was the breadwinner. I was the one working, because me and my husband, we would flip-flop roles, and at that time I was the one that was the breadwinner. And then my dad got sick, so we were going through a lot at that time. Like, my father got sick, we were going to have to relocate to Illinois. I just lost my job. I was already thinking about how I would go back and forth, and it was just so much at one time. But I'm telling you, stick with it, especially if you've been wronged, right? Especially if you feel that you've been wronged. Prove it. Emotions and how we feel does not matter. It don't matter in a court. Paperwork, black and white, prove it. You have to prove it. So document. That is what I want you all to start doing today. Document everything, every write-up, every incident. Every time something happens and it makes you feel some type of way inside, whether you're right or wrong, it does not matter. Document the incident. You know why? Because they're going to document that incident. Because HR already has that incident documented, whether it's good or bad. They don't care about your feelings. Feelings, take them out. Negate those. They don't matter. Okay? So this will summarize, episode number 2. Again, I'm no lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a person that went through a journey, and I went to federal court by myself, pro se, representing myself. So like I said, document everything, breathe, take a moment. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Knowledge is power, and it's in your hands, okay? Just remember that. Knowledge is power. It's in your hands to take control over that situation. And that's just dealing with employment. We're not talking about bankruptcy. We're not talking about, legal tenant rights or anything like that. What I want to teach you all is how to take anything to court if you feel the need necessary. I'm not saying every case needs to go to court. What I'm saying is I'm here to educate you all on the things that I've been through and that I'm going through in my life with this series, Pro Se with Tiff. You guys have a great day and document.